and welcome to the Digitize Fully Charged Podcast. My name is Niall Ridgway and I'm joined as always by Pam Curry. Now today's guest is the absolutely awesome Ailey McDonald, or as you may know her online as Scottish Teacher P123. She is absolutely blowing up right now on Instagram and TikTok, all our favourite social media places as well, with her fantastic content all about kind of the younger years and being a teacher in Scotland and how we can make a difference to the lives of our young people. So if you've not seen her online, definitely go and check out her account. She's honestly blowing up is the best way to describe just how much love she is seeing online right now for the stuff that she is putting out there. So today's episode, we dive into how she creates all of her content, where she gets her ideas for the content, how she finds being a teacher in Scotland as well, some of the things that we can do as educators and as parents as well, how we can support our young ones as they come into school, and yeah, just chat a wee bit about her life and what she has coming up. So without much further ado, let's jump into Ailey's episode of the Digitize Fully Charged Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome. We are delighted to be joined today by Ailey McDonald. Ailey, could you tell us a little bit about your journey as an educator, who you are, where you're from, what you're getting up to?
So, my name's Ailey, and I'm from Edinburgh, born and raised my whole life, and I never wanted to be a teacher, and it was never something I was going to do.
Right,
really
interesting.
It's kind of always been in the background of my life, but it's never, all throughout primary school, high school, it was just never what I wanted to do. And
Sure.
I went off to do English literature at Edinburgh Uni. Didn't cope very well. Being a Scottish student in a Scottish university is hard work, and lasted a year. And was sitting with my mum looking through the prospectus thinking, what am I going to do? They'd said, literally, like, my whole life's in front of me. I was 19. And I thought, what am I good at? What can I do? And I thought, I'm really good at reading books. That's why I wanted to do English. And I just didn't know. And I really liked drama. And I thought, well, I'm not going to make it as a Scottish actress. They're already being filled by other people. And I just thought, what am I going to do? So, and then my mum reminded me when we were younger, we hosted adults with additional support needs in our house for like independent living, and they came and lived with us, and we taught them how to cook and we taught them how to clean, and it was like an assisted sort of living, people that could live independently but within a family. And they just became, I'm the youngest of four, so they became like extra big brothers and sisters for me. And it was really, really nice. And you know, my mum was teaching them to cook, and my dad's a locksmith, and my dad would teach them how to pick locks, which is probably not the best thing to teach people, but honestly, like, that was the skills they left with, is cooking and lock picking.
Life skills.
And I would come home from school, and when I was learning like phonics, and I would make little flashcards. My mum tells a story, I would run off and I would rip up bits of paper and make flashcards. And I so quite naively was so adamant that I was learning so they could learn. And this was like 40, 50, 60-year-old people who had been through school, and I was like, no, they're going to learn because I'm going to teach them. And I was relentless. I would every night, and I would read to them, and I would do maths with them, and I just kind of, that was all kind of in the background, and I'd forgotten about it, or it was just part of my upbringing. It was so normal. So my mum reminded me of that and was like, that's what you're good at. So I thought, okay, I'll be a teacher. And then 4 years later, I graduated. That was that. And I took a real interest in gender studies in primary school. I'm a big feminist, and I took lots of interest in, you know, let's get boys reading and all this sort of, all of that. And I really, really got into it. So I graduated with a first. I got a award for my dissertation. Yeah, it was really, really good. It was really, it was all about young women and their attitudes towards STEM careers, and how I interviewed lots of young girls who said that science was for boys and maths was for boys.
Right.
And very disheartening, but very important. And then I taught my probationary year and the year after in Edinburgh. Then I moved to Aberdeen for 2 years and taught through COVID. Really? Not through COVID. It's not. If there's nothing to do in Aberdeen when it's not in lockdown, when it is in lockdown, you're struggling.
Yep.
So I taught there for 2 years through COVID, and I started at the top of the school. I taught P6-7, then P6, then P5, then P4, and then I moved back to Edinburgh and got my job in P1 to 3.
Sure.
And I had never taught phonics. I'd never taught early years. I'd always said I would never teach children under P4. This is me going into my 5th year of P1 to 3, and I would never do anything else.
Oh, really? Do you actually
yeah,
prepare the younger ones?
100%. I'm so glad that when I interviewed for the P67 job, and then someone else got it, and I'm so glad that they got that job, because I wouldn't be P1 to 3. P1 and P2 are just my absolute favourite. They're just like the best year groups to teach.
I'm with you.
And then last year, summer holidays time, I started my content creation journey.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I have ADHD, diagnosed, fully medicated, and I get so bored in the holidays. The lack of structure, the lack of routine, I really, really struggle with it. So, and I go into school a lot because in the holidays and voluntarily, and it's not a very good example to set, but I like to get things organized before, because when you've got 5-year-olds in, you cannot do any organizing while they're there.
Sure. There's no chance.
So I was in it, and I was moving things around, and I was sorting out boxes, and I'd seen other creators, Scottish creators, doing the same, set up my classroom with me, and I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to film this, and then I'll speed it up. And I've always really liked editing, and I've always really, like, anytime I listen to a song, I'm like making up the music video in my head, and I'm editing it, and it's all, you know, I do that a lot. When I was a teenager, I used to storyboard music videos, and I didn't have any of the gadgets, and I didn't have any of the sort of will to do that, but that was my thing, was how would I edit this and what would it look like? And so that kind of came back to me like 15 years later as a content creator. And then I started posting, and it was very slow, and then I just started to shape what I was doing and change it a bit, and then kind of phonics became my thing, and I just started to think, when I started P1 to 3, what did I need? What would I have wanted to see? And because I had to go total self-taught. I didn't get training on phonics until my 3rd year of teaching P1 to 3. So for 2 years, I was just Googling things and watching other people. And then it's come to how it is today. And it's really picked up so fast this year. The last 6 months, I've went from like, I think about 3,000 followers to 18,000. It's just gone.
Blown up.
It's huge. It's massive.
So what advice would you give to, so actually there must be lots of people that'll be listening to us, that'll be thinking, right, you know, I wonder how you get started in something like that. I wonder, like, what advice would you give to someone else? Because you've been doing it for a year, and you're now noticing like the big lift, the big traction. And that's kind of what I hear from people when they're doing content creation, is like, you kind of need to stick at it. Like, don't give up within the first 2 months, because
trust the process.
Yeah, it really is. And you have to like really embrace the flop, is what I call it. Embrace the flop. If you post a video and it goes nowhere, and you just have to leave it. The temptation to delete it or re-edit it, and you just have to let it be there and put it out, and that takes your ego takes a beating. Like, it really does. And you see in comparison, really, and I know that now people will compare themselves probably to me, but when I compared myself to bigger creators, I was like, I'm never going to get there, I'm never going to do that, I'm never going to look as good as them, I'm never going to have the ideas that they have. But it really is just consistency. And when you understand the algorithm and you learn a bit about the algorithm, but there aren't really any big tips, or there's not really any hacks to it. It's just good content pays off and does well. And once you realize it's all about search engine optimization, SEO now, it's all about, people are going, do you know, when you're making a recipe, you don't Google how to make lasagna, you go on TikTok and you put in lasagna recipe, and you watch it, because we're so visual. People are so visual. And I think it's really, now TikTok and Instagram have become search engines, and that once you realize that, you can click into that, and that kind of changes that.
So what kind of things have you learned along the way then, in terms of like the content that people engage with? Like, what's your kind of, because you must learn, like, if you go do a video and there's a couple of 100 views, and you do another video that's got thousands, that
you kind of get you see what works well. And I think something that I was kind of told right at the start is to know who your audience are and what have quite a niche at the start while you're setting yourself up. So I started with teachers learning phonics for the first time, and it was things that I felt were savable, how to say the pure sounds, how to teach CVC words, just breaking it down into 2-3 minute long videos that you could just pick up and digest, and you could be about to teach a phonics lesson and go, oh, where was that video again? Savable and shareable, and things that you could quite concrete things that you could pick up at, like a how-to. And then once I got quite comfortable with that, I then thought, okay, and then their teaching is such a, unless you're a teacher, a lot of the time you don't get the excitement over all the whiteboard pens that have just arrived. And I realized there was niche in the relatability of being a teacher and the humor of being a teacher. And there's just all these little things. There was one I posted that did quite well when I was still quite small, and it was like the night before the summer holidays when you can't find your lanyard, you don't know where your laptop is, and you haven't slept all the damn weeks, and it was just everyone around Scotland was sitting there like, oh, where is
all
my
feeling
lanyard?
the
same. And
what is my computer password?
Right, and when you kind of tap into that, and other people, they feel seen and they feel heard and they feel like, oh yes, I'm not alone. And I think that's quite big. And then I just thought, I teach P1. I've got P1 to 3, but my P1s are usually my smallest cohort because we're a really small school. But I was getting P1s that were not very independent, they were coming in knowing A, B, C, not the phonics, and I thought, I need parents to know these things. And I was like, I'll just start making some videos for parents. So I went from, I'm teaching your sort of newish teacher to an early years classroom about phonics, and I thought, okay, now I'm relating those two. Now it's parents about phonics, and it's expanding while still staying within your niche, because if you go too wide, you just lose people and the algorithm doesn't really pick you up. But I think for me it's savable content, and then I think of shareable content of, you send it to your colleague because it's so funny and it's so real. Those are the things I've realized. They talk a lot about selfish content, and a lot of the things that are like a day in the life with me, I don't do a lot of them because I think, what is someone else getting from that other than seeing someone's day in the life, because it is interesting. I kind of go more for, this is less about me and more things that you could do.
So you're more, as a content creator, you're more of a giver. You're giving information, you're giving facts, you're giving information, rather than taking the likes, taking the comments.
Exactly. And I do day in the life occasionally, and I do things like that. And in the holidays I can mix in, if I go hiking, or like I did a Monroe, and I just thought, do you know what, I'm really proud of doing a Monroe, so I'm going to make a video on it. And it didn't do very well, but I thought, that's still part of who I am. And
I guess that's more like your behind the scenes content then, is the other things that you're doing outside of school.
Ailey, I think what we're doing here is kind of stumbling upon a bit of a talking point in terms of like professional development, because see, when you think about it, like our systems are set up so that professional development tends to be a workshop at the end of the day when everyone's knackered from teaching. And Niall and I have been the people who've delivered them, and we kind of know at times we're like, well,
sometimes it's painful.
Do you know what I mean? Or it'll be some kind of extended online course that will get some kind of certificate, and it's and actually we've kind of chatted about this before, Niall and I, about this idea of short form content that's accessible. And there's a kind of powerful talking point in there. And what are other educators saying to you about that? Like when you talk to teachers in the classroom, like at the end of the day, you're providing professional development.
It is. And I often go to training within my cluster schools, and I'll see people and they'll be like, I follow you. And I'm like, oh, hi. And they'll say, oh, you did that video about phonics. And then they'll say something and they'll be like, and I've been using it every day. And, you did that thing about how to teach adjectives using bingo. And my class they ask me to play it every single day now. And it really is, I get the really instant feedback from people when I see them. And that I think is really, really nice. And I can see that websites. I'll often recommend websites and edtech tools and teaching tools, and there'll be people saying, I've never used that before, and it's totally changed how I do this thing. Recently, I put on Instagram about quite a well-known early years enjoyment and choice thing is to vote for the story that you're going to read at story time. And people do it with pegs, they do it with magnets, and I was like, I'm just going to do it on my whiteboard. And I set up a little counter and kind of manipulated a smartboard tool to make it what I wanted it to be.
Brilliant.
And I got so many messages. How did you do that? That's so much easier. Can you show us how to do that? And loads of people, I've been doing that, and it takes me 10 seconds to set up in the morning. And it's just, it really is, the feedback is so quick and so instant. And I think that's with it being online. And I think it also helps, kind of what you were saying there was making me think about how we've all sat through something.
Yeah.
And they've gone, this is magic words. And then you sit down and you're like, oh, it's spelling.
Yeah.
And, and you think, okay, and you've just made a brand name for something that is just spelling phonetically.
Correct.
And I think what you don't see a lot of people doing is online are those pitchy branded CPD or CLPL. You don't, like, in my school we do Read Write Inc, but I don't ever talk about Read Write Inc really. I talk about phonics because I know at the base of it all they're very, very similar. You might teach the sounds in a different order, but they're all very similar. And I think that helps because I know that if I talk about Read Write Inc, if someone's not using that and they're using Jolly Phonics or they're using something else, they'll go, oh well, not for me.
Yes.
And actually I think a lot of the stuff you see online just strips all that off, and it's like, actually, here's how I teach spelling and reading, and I don't use this or this, and I'm not trying to sell you this or this, because they're all very similar, and we're all so sick of sitting through things and going, wow, how much did my school pay for this person to come and tell us about? And I think that helps because it is quite, there's monetization involved in content creation, but it's not the same as we want your school to buy into our scheme. There's none of that bias. So I think it really helps just to have quite straight talking. That seems to be what people like.
Peer to peer.
Yeah, and just knowing that I am in my classroom using those things, and it's from years of experience. And I think when you've got that authenticity, and when you build up that relationship with your followers, and I'll get messages sometimes that say I use whatever scheme, and I'll say, well, I don't use that. And and I often have to say, I don't know how to help you with that. Or if sometimes P5, P6, P7 behavior management, I'm like, I don't know if I can, use my scary teacher voice. And I'm quite honest and say I have my specialisms, but I don't know everything. So I think that helps as well. Just not coming across as I am the overlord of teaching and I know everything, but just let's figure this out together.
The big I am.
Yeah, there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
You mentioned about using EdTech in the early years and how you're using things like the smartboards and interactive whiteboards to kind of bring educational technologies to your classrooms. What are your go-to tools for the younger years? Is it videos? Is it just using the larger whiteboards? What are you using?
It's kind of, both of those things. We love a video, and there's so much on YouTube that is just amazing. And there's so much that's from like the 90s that I'm like, I know it's very grainy and I know it's lagging, but this is a really good BBC episode about numbers. And there's a lot of things that you just kind of you keep and you save. And my class love a video. I try to keep them short because I am aware of screen time. And someone said to me recently in a training I went to about screen time at BET, actually, that we have to assume that children go home and then they have more screen time. We can't assume that they don't go home and do that, because if you think that, they should only have 2 hours a day or an hour a day, if you use up that hour before lunchtime at school, they're going to go home and have 5 hours on top of that.
It's not all gone.
No, so it's kind of, they said try to use a child's maybe 50% of their screen time at school and 50% at home. And that made me think about how I was balancing my day. So I use a lot of YouTube videos. There's a really, really good education, I don't even know what they call it, like education Netflix. And they're, what are they called? TCTV. And I can't remember what that stands for. But they do really brilliant things for early years. They do lots of really fun like series about pets, they did a whole series about neurodivergence. They've done loads of little series, and they're really brilliant. I like them.
Is that Time Capsule?
Time Capsule, yes. Time Capsule TV. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's like a family that I met at Bet, and they are like cosplayers. And they are just this really cool family of like pirate cosplayers. And they've got their own filming studio, and they make these videos. And the woman Heidi, who kind of is behind it, she was a reception teacher for years. And I met her at Bet, and I was like, you were a teacher. I know you were a teacher.
Yep.
And we had a really good chat. So I'm kind of careful with YouTube, but obviously. So I quite like something that is already pre-checked.
Okay.
I use my smartboard a lot. I don't actually even have like a dry wipe board in my classroom anymore. I had one, this huge, cumbersome one that was on wheels, and I got rid of it and gave it to Sport for Learning because I just use, I love the snipping tool. Snipping tool is my life. And I just worksheets, get up on there, anything, get it on the screen, and my class know that that's what I'm going to use. And I love just all the things on there. I'm kind of going between, I really like Ginzy. I made a video about Ginzy recently. I think it's like a Dutch company, and they've got a whiteboard. They're a bit like Classroom Screen. But slightly different, slightly less American, more European. And they Ginzy's really, really good. I really like that. And that's got all these tools, timers, and my voting tool is on there, and I use my class are they know how to use all of those things now. So just lots of tools like that. Brilliant. And I think we do a lot of practical stuff, and recently we were in a staff meeting about cyber attacks and what would you do in the case of a cyber attack. And me and my learning assistant looked at each other and we were like, we don't need the internet. We were like, we just need some phonics flashcards. So as much as I use EdTech all day, every day, and I do, there are things that I really, really like, I also know that I'm confident in that I could still teach without it. At early years. And you know, because I don't ever want to be overly reliant. It's definitely easier and definitely faster, more efficient, reduces my workload. But I do like to think I could still survive a day with P1s without it, which is key. But yeah, those are kind of, but we use a lot of things, but I think my board is very much the hub of the room. And they know that I'll just put things up and we can do all sorts with it. And they're often like, wow, and really amazed by it. But I really, I like to use the smartboard.
So I'm not a primary teacher. My background's not in primary teaching, but it's in secondary teaching. And one of the things I've picked up from doing the work that we do is that the smartboards, a lot of classrooms, like there's a huge percentage of classrooms have got, you know, smartboards, interactive boards. But I don't really see all the educators I've been with using the full functionality of them. Do you know what I mean? It tends to be a display.
It's a projector essentially.
I see that
what
as
you
well.
guys see?
Yes, I definitely, I suppose in my school we've got a really, really young, I am like one of the oldest teachers at 31 years old. We've got a really young team at the moment, but not to say that sometimes the younger ones don't utilize EdTech, but we are quite EdTech focused within the school, to be fair. But I do see people they use their smartboard as just a projector, like you say, just to watch videos. It goes on at the end of the day, whereas mine goes on at the start of the day and is on all day. And I think there's so many tools built in, but I also know that we've never been trained. I've not been trained on how to use my board. It's like 8 years of teaching that I've learned. It was someone that sat down with me and was like, did you know all of this stuff is in here? And it's just folders that you would never open because you never have time. And I know that, for example, at Bet, there was Promethean was there and Smartboard was there, and they were showing me things. And I said to the guy, I've had this board for 4 years and I didn't know that. So I do think there's definitely, you know, rather than teaching you something brand new, tell me how to use the things that are actually in my classroom already that you spent thousands of pounds on. I think that's really, really important. And I've taught a lot. A lot of people said, I don't know how you do that. And how do you have two screens up? And I'm like, oh, come on. And I'm having to, and I think it's so obvious to me, but it's not to everyone else.
I mean, I don't know a huge amount about smartboard features. I've just never, it's never been something.
No,
I've been
I'm a
trained
button presser. As soon as I get something, I'm pressing all the buttons. I'm going into the set and seeing how I can personalize it for me.
Yeah, me too.
And so that's how I've learned these things as well. Is just go and trying something out, see if it works. Oh, let's see if we can make this bigger. If we can duplicate it, what are the buttons that we can press? But if you've never had the training or you've not got that,
What were your kind of favorite smartboard things that everybody should know?
I think like the really obvious ones. Like there's in most smartboards or Promethean or whatever board, there's always like a reveal thing where you can put down like a screen, and that's like quite a game changer. It seems really obvious. So it covers your screen, and then you can slowly lift it or drag it down to reveal things slowly, if that makes sense, rather than seeing the whole screen, but rather than clicking to the next slide, you can, it's like a garage door almost, and you can like pull it down. So I'll use that for, you know, if we're doing prediction or how do you think you spell this word, and then you can reveal it like a letter at a time or a line at a time, and things like that. And it's just quite good to have if you want. Sometimes you want them to get to the answer, but you might need to give some clues to get there. I use that quite a lot, and it's a really simple one.
That's a good one.
And that is a really good one.
Back in the analog days, you would have done that with an overhead projector and a bit of paper over
a bit of paper.
Just sliding it down slowly.
It's just the same thing, but it's like a little curtain that you can sort of pull down. So I like to use that, and I use that a lot. I think newer on smartboards is 2 pens, and you can now use 2 pens at once. That's a really new thing, and I think a lot of teachers think that the other pen is a backup pen. But you can actually use both pens at once, so you can have we play a game quite a lot, like a spelling game where they line up maybe in teams of 4 or 5, and I'll shout a word and they have to try and write it, and whoever writes it fastest and correct, their team gets a point. And then they run to the back of the line because they can both write at the same time. And that's a really good one.
Cool.
It's really cool, and it is just mimicking a dry whiteboard and being able to do that. And when I teach phonics or letter formation, I'll say, right, I've got this person, you're really good at doing so come up and I'll do one and you do one. And the children will watch us do one at the same time. And it's a really, really powerful thing, because they know that it's not just me holding the pen. We're creating this together. They like to draw pictures together. Sometimes when I'm in a really good mood, they'll say, can we draw the smartboard? And I'm like, yeah, do you know what, you can. And they have so much fun adding to each other's pictures. And the symmetry is another really good one. You can do loads of stuff with symmetry with the 2 pens.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they're all things that are just built in, and they're just there. You don't need to install anything, and it's just all there, and they're brilliant. They're really, really good.
One of my favourite things is that and this is multiple councils across Scotland as well, is that the Wi-Fi that you use for your computer is a different network to the one that are connected to the smartboards and interactive whiteboards. So see if your Wi-Fi goes down for your laptop, you can actually still access through the browser on the interactive whiteboards. So if you are needing anything, you can
Everyone
still
else is
access
stressing
it.
out, and you're like, why are you so stressed?
I'll still get everything on. Just log into
it. It's a good one. And I just like that it all saves as well. I've had lessons that, you know, with my class, I often do writing over 2 or 3 days. And if we make a word bank, or we draw a picture for our, you know, we'll draw it on the first day, start writing on the second day. It's all just saved there on a dry whiteboard. You'd have to take a picture of it, and you'd have to leave it up and not let anyone wipe it off, and you can just keep things. Don't touch it. You have to write on it. Please don't come out.
Please do not remove.
And then you come in and you're like, oh no. So it's just really easy just to be able to save things and save things as templates and reuse them. I do drawing club. I think it's Greg Bottrell Bryce, the ABC. What's his name? Or Alexander Bryce Clegg. There's 2 men with double-barreled names that both do play stuff in the early years. And drawing club kind of follows the same kind of pattern. And I just bring up the same template every time. And my class know that's a drawing club template. That's what that looks like. And I've just got it saved, and I just save on top of it all the different stories that we do. And now I have a full bank that are just sitting there.
Amazing.
Ready to be used whenever. It's just all the things that are just there. They're just built in, and you don't actually need to do anything special to have.
Fancy.
Yeah.
No devices required.
No
fancy software is required.
Yeah.
one of the things we touched on earlier was video as a medium.
Yep.
We're worried about because of the screen time issue,
Yeah.
but there's also, I mean, the thing is, it engages us as adults, doesn't it? It makes us
know.
buy stuff.
Mhm.
It makes us follow
Yep.
people. Like, we all doom scroll reels at
Yep.
night, don't we? So yeah, that for me is an interesting one as well, because I remember being in a classroom with a particularly challenging primary class, and they were you could just feel that they weren't fully engaged.
Mm.
And I was trying to explain something simple, and I realised that I kind of was losing them a wee bit. There was kind of wee bits of unrest. It was an older primary class, and I
Sure.
remember thinking, I'm going to just put this on a video. And I basically just went very quickly, and I
Yep.
said to them, right, listen, I'm going to demo what we're doing, but I'm going to do it like a YouTube video. So I said, so we're going to put some background music on, and I'm going to stop speaking. And I basically
Love that.
changed the lesson into like a video by doing the screen demo on the screen, but putting
Yeah.
some background music on and stopping talking. And there
I
was
love
an
that.
instant impact on the class's engagement. They
Wow.
were just like, and I'm like,
Just glued.
that's like all I needed to
That's
do
all
was
it took,
stop
yep.
talking. I know.
Do you know, I do something similar with PE. So I'm a really, really visual learner, really visual, and I also really
Sure.
don't like teaching PE. And so I'm not athletic myself. So I find teaching PE difficult, especially in P1 to 3, because you've got early level and then into first level, and it's difficult. If I'm trying to teach them a game, I will draw the game bird's eye view on the smartboard and draw little stick people and move them around. And a lot of the time, act it out. So I'll be like, oh, throw me the ball. And and it's the same as I'm not delivering it standing there.
Yes.
And this is what you do. I show them what the game looks like. And a lot of the time on YouTube, they have games like that already.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I taught netball in Aberdeen. I taught a netball club, and I had never played netball. But do you know that thing where you're like, I can do it, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
We watched loads of netball games, and they were talking to themselves, oh, they've just passed that, and look, she's a goal scorer, and so on, and it was so much better than me standing in a PE hall shouting at them, and they were so engaged. And it's the same with PE.
I had similar with I took P6s a couple of months back, and they hadn't actually watched a tennis match. So we sat and I just searched on YouTube, and they were all looking at the serves. How do you serve? How do you go closer to the net? How do you move? How do you even the skills of balancing the ball, hitting the ball up into the air? How do you hold a racket?
And that's what we talk about, cultural capital. We talk about children who, if your family don't have Wimbledon on in the background, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
We take children skiing, and we had a boy come up to us this year and go, what even is skiing? Because if you've never been skiing, you don't know. And it was my one of the teachers at school was like, we need to show them some videos of skiing. And that really unlocks that for them. And if you don't have that reference point, it's like I tried to do a museum once, a museum of life or a museum of P1 to 3. And they were like, one of the boys said, what's a museum? And I thought, you've never been to a museum. And so we went onto a museum website and we watched someone walking around a museum. And then he was like, cool, I want to bring in my teddy bear. And he knew what it was.
Yep.
And you can really unlock those things that they've maybe never been, like you say, about tennis.
Yep.
If they've never watched a tennis match, how on earth are they meant to play it? So it's really, really good for that, taking them. And even other countries and things like that, you can just take them anywhere.
Yeah. Using things like Google Maps and Google Arts and Culture.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're great for that. Just like you said, going into the museum, you can go around some of the biggest museums in the world and actually not spend a penny.
Yeah,
you can go and explore. Yeah.
It's what we do as adults, isn't it? If we wanted to know anything, we'd find a video.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to Canada this weekend, and I'm like, what am I going to do in Canada? And you used to have to go and buy a book.
A
rough
guide.
Yep.
And it would be like 6 months out of date, and you'd go and it'd be like, well, that restaurant is closed now.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, things to do in Toronto, and I have a list of 100 things to do because it's just there, and it's so easy and so quick. And even things like safety, there was like, don't go here if you're a woman traveling on your own, and don't things that you wouldn't know.
Sure.
It's amazing when you really think about it, what is at your fingertips. And I know that we talk a lot about digital safety and what children can be exposed to. And I do, as much as I have strong feelings about screen time, I also don't want to demonize screen time because, like you say, we all use it. And I know that we are, as adults, cognitively able to make sure that we're watching things we should be, or we want to expose ourselves to. But I just think it's so easy to go on the other side of that and just be like, don't let them do this, don't let them go on this.
Yep.
And I think there's finding that line's really, really difficult as a teacher and as a parent. I have lots of parents come to me at Parents' Night asking about screen time and asking for my advice and asking for, do you know, is Roblox okay? Because my friend at so-and-so told me Roblox was fine, but then I heard about this. And there's just a lot of uncertainty, but I think I don't want screen time to go the other way, and that it's like no screen time ever, and then children miss out on these opportunities. It's really difficult. It's like one of the biggest things I think going on right now for us.
So see in terms of you being a content creator, this kind of interests me in terms of like young people as well, because I kind of sometimes think young people must go to school just now and think, what is all this? Maybe not primary school, but secondary school for sure. And like they must sit there and think, why are we doing this? Why are they doing this when I could become a YouTuber?
I know.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the parents and the as adults, we are not really recognizing that that's a valid career path.
Absolutely.
We had a workshop yesterday in here for tech jams, we call them, and it's kids coming in their summer holidays to just do fun stuff. But yesterday's one was, so you want to be a YouTuber? And like it was full, you know,
I can
because
imagine.
they all want to be YouTubers.
Yeah.
But
They do.
I feel like it's something as adults that we discourage almost.
Yeah. I know.
I had a P2 class a number of years ago, and they we were doing a lesson on kind of future jobs. What do you want to be when you're older, type thing. And one out of the whole class didn't say they wanted to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Everybody
and that's
else
P2.
wanted to be a YouTuber. Yeah, that was P2.
It's difficult because you don't want to be like, and why don't you want to be a nurse or a teacher or a doctor?
Yeah.
But then I know that I'm sitting there hypocritically as a content creator. It's difficult. And I think there's definitely, like, even myself, when I started doing it, I did not take myself very seriously at first. And I didn't tell very many people. And I was absolutely mortified that people I knew would be like, oh gosh, she thinks she's a content creator. And I was really, I had to explain it to my dad, who's in his 60s. I was like, do you know what YouTube is? Do you know what TikTok is? And I knew that at the time it was like, all right, okay, so you should post videos online. And with head teachers I've had in the past, trying to explain it and take myself seriously and to have them take it seriously, but also to give it its due as something that's really, really big and really new, but also to understand that it's new ground for so many people and for parents. And we all know that YouTubers make 10 times more than we all do. But then it's such an unsteady, do you know, when TikTok in America was banned for 40 hours or however long it was, lots of people were like, this is my livelihood. I quit my full-time job for this. And there's definitely that's definitely always there. I think for me it's different because I know that first full-time I'm a teacher and I'm in the classroom on the ground, and this is just a side thing for me at the moment, but I don't know where it's going to go and I don't know how long it will be. And it's things, you know, it's difficult because with children you want to encourage them, and that is where the world is. I remember being in primary school and my old head teacher, who is like, Mr. Brack is like a famous head teacher in Edinburgh because he was amazing. He told us all in an assembly, the job that you will have does not exist right now. And we were all like, what? And this was in, when did I leave primary school? Like 2005, 2006? And he was like, the job that you will have does not exist. And we were all, didn't understand what he means. And now I'm like, I completely understand that. And I think
he was a visionary. Yeah.
He was a visionary. That's why he was so well known. He was a visionary, and he really was. And it's definitely even true now. We think that we've got all the up-to-date jobs and we know what all the most modern jobs are, but even in 10 years, the children that I teach now, their jobs do not exist. And it's just being open-minded to that, I think. But also, you know, I think the curriculum is still quite world of work skills for life. Yep. I know we're kind of moving on. I know my council's moving on to like meta skills and incorporating meta skills that are less work focused in terms of doctor, teacher, lawyer, mechanic. You know, they're a bit more, you will need these skills for any job you have. And I think that's a good place for it to go. Because for content creation, you do need creativity. You do need to be able to cooperatively work with others. You do need all those skills, and it's a transferable. But I think there's still some schools that have the careers fairs, and they really push the very, very traditional jobs. And I think, like everything, there's a line there. I don't think I'll ever be invited to a school as a content creator to a school's careers fair, but
that's the thing that really,
maybe.
Because I'm sure I read, and I'm not going to be able to remember the statistic right, but there is some. Come on now, there's something about the percentage of, when you think about all the people in the world, so all the content, and obviously there's like, you know, lots of content, video content, but there's some statistic about the percentage, the amount of content and the percentage of people in the world that create it, and it's tiny. It's like, you know, all of the content we consume is created by this tiny percentage of people.
I can believe that, you know.
I mean, TikTok, it makes no secret of the fact that it doesn't have enough content, and it'll tell you, here's the content gaps.
I've been getting sent more, like, the same videos that I remember watching from like 6 months, a year ago, and I'm like, I recognize this. Hold on,
I've had that recently as well.
It's because there's not enough.
It is interesting, and like you say, with the content gap and all of that, and I think that is the search engine nature of it now. I think it is. But if I think about, to be fair, myself, how many videos I've made and posted, I mean, the numbers are like 1 to probably about 250-ish in a year. And obviously, the more you create, there's people that post 3-4 times a day. And that makes it quite difficult, I think, and quite disheartening for someone who wants to jump in there and do that themselves. But I suppose it's just a big learning curve right now about content creation and how it all works.
There's so many unspoken rules as well with the algorithms, and everything's different. I know Instagram constantly changes what they're wanting to do,
they're wanting
to push, and there's a lot of influencers that their whole niche is sharing the updates on the algorithm, what's been happening, whether
coaches,
to post vertical or and so like there's all these unspoken rules that we
constantly
will likely never know, that the reasons why videos are successful or not successful.
And have you got any tips for people on that, Ailey? So anyone that's thinking about getting into this, and you know, like whether they're an educator or whatever their passion or interest niche is, what advice would you give them for, like, do you need fancy equipment? Do you need, like, what do you need to get started doing this?
I literally have the oldest, ricketiest tripod known to man, that I bought on Amazon for like a tenner, and I have a little mic set that works for me, that again I bought for like £15, and I did upgrade my phone. I had like an iPhone, I think 12 or 13, and I did get the 16 Pro, and that made a big difference, because you can really see on that back camera, it's like clear as day. So I've got those things, and I have a CapCut subscription. But that's about it. That is about it. I don't have lights. I don't have anything really. And I've thought about it. I've thought, should I have a ring light? Should I have this? Should I have this? My tripod just gets put under the arm and toted around, shoved in the back of the car. And a lot of the time, it's just my phone's just propped up somewhere. But I think at the moment, there's a bit of a conversation online about the authenticity of ring lights and studios and perfect mics and editing, over editing. We're now it's really very phasal. Is that a word, phasal? And that it is now. Editing went through like a really hyper edit every single pause that you make out, and it should cut really, really, really quick, and it's getting it out really quick, and it's all about your hook, and it's all about this. And recently there's been a sort of, people are a bit sick of that, because now it's too professional and it's not authentic enough. And now they just want you to, and you see a lot of people, they film themselves putting their phone down. And you used to edit that out, but now you keep that in. Because it's like that shaky
it's the
start.
It's the visual hook,
and it's like, I've just thought of this and I need to tell you. And it's kind of going back round to really authentic on the ground. Actually, I don't have a mic. I don't have a tripod. I've set this up somewhere against something, but I have to tell you this right now. And it's kind of moving. It's hard to keep on top of. And I think my advice would be, if you try to keep on top of what the latest trend is, you will just exhaust yourself and you'll always be behind it, because it takes thousands of videos to pick that up. And so I just cycle through things. I just go for, a carousel post one day because I know that they do really well, and then I'll think, right, I'm going to go for a 10-second short, funny, relatable, using a trending sound video that I know in a month is not going to be funny anymore, because it'll be so oversaturated. People are sick of hearing that sound, and you just have to cycle through them. I went through a phase probably when I grew the most, between about 3,000 and about 10,000, where I was doing like Monday, I'll do this kind of content, Tuesday this, and I was cycling through every day, and I had a different type, and I was finding that you reach different people's different preferred types of videos that way. Some people are scrolling TikTok in their children's room while they're trying to sleep, and they can't have the trending sound on, so they don't know what you're doing, but they can go through a carousel post. Other people want to be able to, they like the trending sounds, and they like the sort of earworm. They think they're really funny, and that appeals to their humor. And so I just think not having a niche, but not only having one way. I went through a phase of lots of longer form for TikTok, that's like 3 or 4 minutes, speaking at the camera videos. And then I started to feel that they were I was like, I'm getting myself really in a bit of a slump with the same types of videos that are very, very easy to record, because you just set it up and take it. But then I thought, right, I need to move around. I need this to be in my car. I'm going to change the background. I'm going to do this. And I saw it pick up again. So I think trying different things, because they go to different people and they appeal to different people, is a really big one. And just sticking with it, knowing what the trends are. Yeah. But I do feel you'll always be at the back of them, because by the time they're up, you've missed it.
And see, in terms of platforms, are you TikTok and Instagram?
Yeah, they're very different, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Do you notice differences? Yeah.
I'd say so. My Instagram, I actually started, and I think that's, Niall, how you even started following me, when I was in Aberdeen, when I was a teacher, and I was Miss Mac in Aberdeen. And I just started it, and it was only pictures, and I taught, I think, P4 or P5, and I started it because teacher Instagram was the big thing. And it was pictures and some captions and sharing some things that we were doing in P4 and 5. And I moved away from Aberdeen, and then COVID hit, moved away, and I left it, and I didn't even have the login for it anymore. And then once I started TikTok, I was like, right, I should probably get on Instagram as well. And then I changed the name, and I changed it a bit, and I deleted archived all the old posts and totally rebranded. And that was quite, it already had about 2,000 followers or something. And I was like, oh, these are all people that followed me because I was in Aberdeen and I was doing this, and it was like 2019. I thought, well, I'm just going to go with it. And I think, so I kind of had that years ago, left it for a while, started on TikTok, saw some success on TikTok, and then went back to Instagram. But they say that your Instagram grid posts are for your followers and your reels are for new followers. Because when you think about it, you don't actually see grid posts from people you don't follow unless it's an ad or like on your explore page, which is usually filled with brands and stuff. So grid posts, I do try to cater towards, you already follow me, I know what you want from me, and it's a bit more personal, and it's usually things that I think I know that people want to see, that they already follow me. And the reels, I know that they attract your new audience. And on Instagram, I really like the function. Yeah, you get the function of so-and-so followed you from your reel. And I really like that, because you can see where they followed you from. Whereas on TikTok, you can't.
What's working.
Often I can see which videos on TikTok got the most new followers, but I can't see specifically who. But I can see now, that person followed me from my one for parents about P1 and preparing for P1. So I know that they're looking for more P1 content. And that person followed me from the one about the Ginsey website recommendation. So I know that's what they're looking for.
You need to put more about
they are very different. TikTok's a lot more, I think, I don't know, it's hard. It's just a different vibe. You go on TikTok and it feels like a huge room, feels like a massive room full of people, but Instagram feels like your living room.
That's a really nice way to describe it.
That's kind of what I feel. And on Instagram, I think I was getting less engagement on Instagram, but it felt like I was speaking to a smaller audience, and it was a bit more cozy, and it was a bit more like, you know me, I know you, like I recognize usernames, whereas on TikTok names are just
I know you
going
mean.
and it feels like a massive room full of people that you're thinking, I'm never going to get to know all of you.
And you've
it's
got
a
no
really
idea
different
who
feel.
any of them are.
A really different, but then you've got a bigger reach because there's more people in the room. It's a really different feel. I'm glad you know what I mean, because it's hard to explain.
We find the same with our posts, absolutely. Like if we put them onto TikTok, you can have thousands of views that just appear, and then you put the exact same video on Instagram and you're sitting at nothing. But the engagement levels are the same. It's you're putting out this content to either, like you say, the big world, or you're putting it out to your real living room, and you're hitting the people that you need to get.
Different. And I think when I get a comment on Instagram or a message on Instagram, I kind of take it a bit more like, you've come to me, specifically me.
Yes.
Whereas on TikTok, I'm like, I'm just another teacher on your feed. I don't know. I think there's just a bit of a disconnect, and I think they're both useful in their different ways. When I first started out, someone told me that Instagram was a lot more cutthroat and a lot more like, you get a lot more like nasty comments, and you get, but I don't find that. I find on TikTok people are a lot more cutthroat.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yes. I'm with you.
Absolutely.
I was always the opposite. I was always like, TikTok's a nice place. TikTok, everyone's kind on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm quite lucky. I don't get a lot of backlash. If anything, I get sort of different opinions. I get people that but then, to be fair, so I made a video the other day about composite classes, and on TikTok it got lots of like, I was in a composite class and I did a composite, and my son was in a composite class and he loved it, and then I posted it on Instagram and got a few negative comments, and I thought, that is the first time I've had any negative comments on Instagram, and I took it more personally because it felt like those people were in my living room with me. It's a really weird feeling. It's really it is, and it just felt a bit more personal. It's a really strange one, but there's such different platforms. I did for a while. I thought, should I have different content for different platforms? And I do, to an extent. There's some things a lot of things before I went back on Instagram that are on my TikTok from months ago that I've not posted onto Instagram. I'm kind of slowly going around and posting old ones again. But and stories. I never post stories on TikTok, but I love a story on Instagram. The story, the questions and the polls. I love a poll. Like, I just think they're so fun to see what people think. I did one about if there was Costco cake in your staff room, but it was 7 a.m. Would you eat it? Yes or no? And I got like 3,000 responses. And it was just mad, and it was like 94% yes. And I think the story.
Wait, no. I would have been no.
Really?
Way too early.
Oh, that's breakfast.
Cake after 12. That's fine.
After 12? Oh no, you wouldn't fit in our staff room. We all love a bit of cake in the morning.
One of the things you mentioned when you're talking about is how I keep going on about the content creation, but
no, it's interesting.
So I had CapCut, you mentioned, as your kind of like editing tool. So I had this debate yesterday at the YouTube workshop. I was like, what am I going to show them for editing their videos? Like, what tool do I choose? And I was like, I went for CapCut because I was like, it's so accessible, whether you're on a phone,
so easy,
web device.
Sometimes I'll edit in the TikTok app itself. I've not edited a lot in the Instagram app, to be fair. In my own, on my personal Instagram, I used to, and I stopped doing it this year because I started doing this more, but I used to do a monthly reel that was like little clips from my life, and I would just load that into Instagram and use that. But I didn't really like the Instagram reel tool, but that was about 6 months ago, so I don't know.
It's better now. I think it is. I mean, like, I thought TikTok was revolutionary when it wasn't it? Like, it made creating and editing videos like super accessible to anyone.
With music as well. That's the big thing, that you can use the music that would be copyrighted.
Doesn't have that. And I do kind of, that's when I go between the two a little bit.
And a lot of people chose that. Yeah, it's the process, didn't they? Like, we'll start on TikTok because TikTok makes a video, and then we'll use that to go to Instagram. But then the watermark thing happened, and I
tend to I tend to stick to CapCut. If it's like a trending sound, or if it's like one of the lip syncy ones where you have to, that's really good. I like that in TikTok you can set the sound and record over it. I think that's really helpful because those lip sync videos are really hard and they take a million takes. And honestly, I've got so many drafts that I'm like, if anyone ever saw them, my ego would take the biggest beating. So I like that. I like that function. And I do like the music. But what I do tend to do is edit on CapCut and then import it into TikTok, then add the music on top.
Okay.
Sure.
And editing it definitely was a learning curve. And the other day I looked back at one of my first ever videos and I was like, oh my gosh, she did not know what she was doing. But I think it's like the evolution of,
you've got to try.
When you learn things, you pick up things. And like my partner is really into photography and he really likes editing and he edits a lot on his laptop. And he's a big like camper, hiker, and he loves camping, hiker YouTubers. And I was starting to learn the editing tips and then show him, and he'd be like, oh, that guy did that in his video that I watched. And we were kind of learning them together and it was quite nice. And then I would try it and he would try it, and we kind of realized what worked across niche. And it was a lot of watching other people, a lot of watching other sort of trending editing things. And then I do have like a checklist of things in my phone that I make sure every video has. I think captions are a really big one. People love captions.
Absolutely.
I love captions. I'm like a subtitles person. I don't know about you too.
Yeah, same too.
I can't
at
watch
all
TV
times
without subtitles. And I'll be watching something and think, why can't I? There's no subtitles on, and I'll be like, where are my subtitles? So if I start watching a video and there's no captions, depending on how hard they've hooked me in, I'll be like, oh, I can't listen to this. And I know how strongly people feel about that. So captions is a big one. Little audio. I like a little transitionary audio. I think they're helpful. Recently, I've gotten into sort of moving the screen in and out and zooming in and zooming out. That's something I've recently started. And once you add it all in, you can really see how it's a lot more engaging to watch. Just the exact same video a lot, because it's sharp and it pops, but then sometimes you can, like I said earlier, you can over edit and it can be a bit much. There was that trend of like the narrator voice, and it was like, this is meet Ailey and she's a teacher, that one that went around. That took me 6 hours to edit. I was absolutely losing my mind over it, and I was like, I need to do it, and I filmed all this stuff for it. I need to do it in 6 hours, and it did well, and I was pleased. But
it was worth it in the long run.
I was keen, to get it out, because there weren't any other teacher creators on my pages that had done it yet, and I had seen it from other people, like lifestyle sort of bloggers, and I was like, I really want to get on it. And there is a bit of a race. There's a bit of a race to who's going to be the first, because the teacher creator sphere is really small, and it's a bit of like a who's going to do it first. And I was fueled by my like race to do it first.
You're like,
I was
I'm doing it.
all right, I'm doing it. And my partner was like, he kept hearing meet Ailey, and he was like, will you please put some headphones on? And it couldn't say Ailey. I had to put my name in phonetically. It was like meet eyelid, and I was like, but it was just, honestly, it was a pain in the neck. But once I did it, I was so proud of it. It was like 40 seconds long, and I was so proud of it.
I'm gonna have to go and find that video.
You need to go and find it, because it took a lot of my life. It really
share it and start the likes going up again.
Yes, right. You need to share it. Get it. I need it to come back every year, because it just was a real labor of love. But I do like CapCut, and I pay for Pro, and I find that that's useful. I think it's
worth
like
it for you.
£18 a month or something, but it is worth it.
Sure.
And I do think it's quite easy to use. I remember my sister saying to me last year, before I started, oh, you should see Poppy, who's my niece, who's like about to be 14, but she was like 12 at the time, 13 at the time. You should see Poppy on CapCut. Oh my gosh, she's making these amazing videos. And I remember thinking, if she can do it, I can do it. And that was what got me. I thought, if a 12, 13-year-old can do it, surely I can do it. And she showed me a few things, and she sort of set me up with it, and I felt like her granny. But she showed me a few things, and then I just kind of went from there. And it was really, and I've always stuck with that. I think there's lots of other apps, but that's kind of my main one. I would recommend that.
I loved about CapCut yesterday, because I've never used it on the web. I've only used it on my phone, and I used CapCut web yesterday with young people in the workshop, and I noticed that like the split in a clip is a dream. Like you You just have
So
to.
much easier.
There's no right click.
Yeah.
There's no nothing. It's
Yeah.
just like click. So what's next, Daly? What's next for you?
So I'm going to Canada. After the holidays, I'm back in P1 to 3 again for another year.
Nice.
Which is going to be really fun. And I've met my new P1s and they're so lovely, and
Are
the
they
class is
lovely?
really nice. They're so nice, and my colleagues, we've got a really, really good staff sort of team at the moment, and we're all, you'll see from, if you've seen my lunch review
Yes.
videos, we
Yep.
are very, very close, very good friends.
I
And
love that.
Great.
yeah, I think in terms of content creation, I'm going to bet again in January, which I'm really
Great.
looking forward
Nice.
to. They've invited
Yeah,
me
that'll be
back,
class.
so I can't wait for that.
Yep.
And I'm doing some work with brands. I've just done a video for Edinburgh Zoo about their
Cool,
Hungry
class.
Caterpillar Trail. Yeah, it was really cool.
Uh-huh.
As someone from Edinburgh, it was really, really cool to get to do. And I'm working with Lecky, the textbook brand
Yep.
company, Mrs.
Yep.
Wordsmith, who they do literacy and vocabulary. I've got lots of brands I'm working with, and
That's amazing.
things are
Well
yeah,
done,
things
you.
are exciting.
Nice one.
That's
Yeah,
so
thank
amazing,
you.
Ailey. You must be really proud of yourself doing that.
Do you
That's
know,
awesome.
Yeah.
I am. And a year in, it's really been like I've been able to take stock, and I get messages that say, last night I got a message from someone I went to high school with who said, I haven't heard from him in like 15 years, and he was like,
Yeah.
oh, my wee boy, I've been doing that, writing his name in lowercase like you said in your video, because we were teaching him
Hey.
capital letters, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, I am so happy that, and I was like, I
That's
was not expecting
amazing.
you to
Yeah.
message me, and I'm so happy, like, and my partner said to me, you really are an influencer, aren't you? And I
That's
was like,
brilliant.
I
There
don't
we
like
are,
to use
yeah.
that word, but that's it, and
At
it's
the end
really
of the
nice.
day,
So,
you're having
Yeah.
influence. Well done.
so things
That's
are good. I'm
awesome.
really
Yeah, that's
So,
class. Nice one. We've got a lot of probationary teachers that are going to be starting this year. What is your tip for them? Where should they get started? Where should they look for help? Where should they look for support in these digital kind of worlds?
a really good question. And I think online, TikTok, there's lots of people doing loads of things on there, lots of chat. I think the problem with using TikTok is that you will compare yourself to every single teacher on there. And when you're just a baby teacher, that is one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah.
I think looking back at my probationary year, what I should have done more of is think more of less about teaching this big and more about my school, the policies, the progressions, the curriculum that they use.
Sure.
You know, someone might be on TikTok doing a topic on the Victorians that you've saved and you want to do, but actually if your school don't do it like that, it's no use to you.
Yeah.
No.
Knowing your own
Yeah.
school and knowing your own class, I think I spent days and days of my life over the summer as a probationer in my classroom, laminating, putting things up. And then I came in and found out my class already knew all their times tables, didn't need the times tables thing that I'd made. And I think
Yep.
there's an urge to get in and get everything ready and have it perfect. And I just think letting go of that control,
Yeah.
learn with your class. There's nothing stopping you from, after a maths lesson that goes disastrously, staying behind after school and making the display
Yep.
that you need for half an hour. Learn with them. And it's their classroom, not your classroom, is a big one. I think the aesthetic, beautiful classrooms, they are everywhere online and we all see them. And
Yep.
the realism is that in an observation, it doesn't matter what your classroom looks like, really.
Yep.
You could
Yep.
have the most beautiful displays in the world, but if you can't teach the policies, the progressions, high quality teaching of the children in front of you who need it, it is useless. So my big
Yes.
thing is less about the classroom, more about how are you going to teach
What
spelling?
goes on in it.
Yeah, exactly. And what are the children getting from it? Because they actually don't really care what's on your walls.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And that is from a place
Brilliant.
of knowing.
Yes.
But yeah, so much online. There's loads of amazing creators online that I've got really great advice for probationers. And I think, but just keeping a pinch of salt with it is really important.
Thank you so much, Ailey.
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah,
I've
thank
really,
you.
really enjoyed this conversation. Like, it's
Yeah.
really been really great just to sort of like have that sort of slightly different focus to what we normally talk
Yeah,
about.
no, it's been brilliant.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you for everything you've done with the content
Thank
creation.
you.
That is
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely amazing. It's really,
Thank
really
you so much.
impressive.
Yeah.
So well done. And I'm so happy that you're starting to get kind of benefits from it in terms of like,
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
coming. Yeah, it's paying off.
stick in
no,
there.
thank you so much. It's been such a great conversation. So easy, just so
Yeah.
natural. Yeah,
Just having a
so
wee
much
chat.
to talk about. Yeah, thank you so much for having me
love
on.
it.
It's been really fun.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of the Digitize Fully Charged podcast. Ailey, you were absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We loved having you on. And Pam was chatting earlier as well, saying that she was really grateful for you taking the time out to join us. So honestly, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight into making that difference for our young people and how you go about creating that difference in both the physical and the online worlds as well. So thank you for that. If you would like further information about our other episodes, please do check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. We put out new shows every Tuesday, depending on which season we're on. So we're currently on season 3, so we've got lots of fantastic guests, both coming up and previously. So go and check out previous episodes and tune in every Tuesday. You'll also find us on all the social medias. So you'll find us on TikTok, you'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, you'll find us Reddit, absolutely everywhere. So let us know what you think of today's episode. Tell us your favorite bits. Please do share with others if you have any probationers, or if you've got any NQTs that have joined you, or you have any new educators that are maybe starting in the early years, this is on first level as well. This is going to be the perfect episode to get them started. Ailey is a very well-known face across Scottish education at the moment, so she's going to be the ideal episode for these people to join in for. So yeah, please do share. Let us know what you think. Drop us a wee like if you get a chance. Subscribe to all of our different channels. We honestly really do appreciate all of your love and support that we see every single day. So thank you so much. And I will see you for our next episode. Cheers. Bye.